Esther. We are up to Perek Hey. We had a 3-day fast, Yud Gimel, Yud Dalet Tesvav. It's now the 3rd day, which is the first day of Pesach. Again, it's an amazing thing how much of the Purim story is connected to the Geula of Pesach. Vahi b'yom hashlishi. It is the 3rd day of the fast, so Yidden are still fasting. Esther is fasting. Vatilbash Esther Malchus. Esther puts on royal garments. Chazal also have a drasha. Malchus is Ruach HaKodesh, the garments of the king, Hashem. V'tamid b'chatzar beis hamelech hapnimis. And she enters the inner courtyard of the king's palace, where no one is allowed to go unless they were summoned. Nochach beis hamelech, directly facing the king's private house. Hamelech Yoshev al kisei malchuso b'meis malchus, and the king is sitting on his throne in his place. Nochach Pesach Habayis, facing the entrance. So when Esther walks in without rishus, the king is directly staring at her. So once again, her life is in danger. He could kill her on the spot. Vayihi. And it was, Kiros HaMelech es Esther HaMalka Medes B'Chatzer. As soon as the king sees Esther the queen standing in the courtyard, he hadn't seen her for 30 days. Nosachein b'einav. She found favor in his eyes. He could have killed her, but his heart was filled with good feelings for her. Vayosher HaMelech li Esther esharvit hazav asher biyado. And he extended his golden scepter. Vatikrav Esther, and Esther came near. Vatiga barosh hasharvit, and she touched the tip of the scepter. So Baruch Hashem, Esther went through the first challenge, right? She was afraid she would just be killed unless Achashverosh felt good about her and extended the scepter. Remember, Achashverosh has killed his wives in the past. Think about Vashti. So the first hurdle is here. Now, Esther's job at this point is to plead for her people. In other words, reveal that she's Jewish and plead for her people. But she doesn't quite do this. Pasuk Gimel. Vayomer la HaMelech. The Melech says to her, Malach Esther Amalta. What's with you, Esther, my queen? Why are you here? Uma bakashasech. What is it that you are requesting? Ad chatzi hamalchut vayinasen lach. I will give you anything you want, up to half of my kingdom. I'll give you up to 50% of my kingdom. So it's interesting. The simple meaning of this is just like a hyperbole. I'll give you anything you want. You can have up to half of everything. Okay, community property. But Chazal say the following. Chazal say that Achashverosh has no idea what nation Esther is, but he suspects that she might be Jewish. And he also knows that the Yidden are trying to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash, which the Persian government did not allow them to do. Now, Chazal always describe Yerushalayim as the middle of the world. That may not be the exact middle, but spiritually, everything is revolving around Yerushalayim. So the Beis HaMikdash is said to be, in a spiritual sense, Chatzi, the middle of the two halves of the empire. So when Achashverosh says, I will give you up to half, meaning I will not give you what's in the middle of the Malchus, if you ask me to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash, I'm not going to give it to you. In other words, he doesn't know she's Jewish, but in case she is, he's not going to let her ask for that. And of course, she does not ask for that. So at this point, Esther's job is to say, I'm a Jew, and Haman wants to kill us. That's what Mordechai told her to say. Go to the king and do that. But Esther does not do that. Vatomer Esther, Imal HaMelech Tov. if this is good in the king's eyes, Yavai Hamelech v'Haman Hayim El Hamishter Asher Asisi Lai. So her request is kind of trivial to endanger herself that way, but Achashverosh is kind of too dumb to ask that question. May the king and Haman come this very day to a banquet that I'm making. I'm making a banquet, a private party, a tea party. And I would love the king and his closest minister to come. It's pointed out that in the three words, Yavai HaMelech v'Haman Hayim, it spells Yud Kei Vav Kei, as if to say, God will be at the banquet. Now, why is Esther doing this? Why is she doing this? Why doesn't she just say what Mordechai told her to say? So again, I mean, there are many, many different explanations. I'm just focusing right now on Pashat Pshat. Esther Mistama figures that she wants to get Achashverosh in a relaxed, receptive mood, drinking, feeling relaxed. And she also wants Haman to be in the same room. So when she pleads for the Jewish people, Haman will immediately be silenced, maybe killed or whatever it will be. Because if the pshat is she pleads now, that gives Haman the opportunity, when he hears about this, to try to negotiate and change Achashverosh's mind. So she wants Achashverosh, number one, to be in a good and receptive mood. And number two, she wants Haman to be there so he can be immediately neutralized and will not be a separate force. So based on this, our assumption is that Esther has in mind at the banquet, she will in fact reveal her identity and what happened and what Haman is trying to do. Now, Lemaisa, we're going to see, and you probably know the story, Esther does not reveal it at the first banquet. There's another banquet, but L'chaira, her kavana was she would do this at the first banquet. That's the pasuk shot of the psukim. And the king is very pleased, right? The king loves the fact that he's invited to his wife's banquet. Hey, v'yomer hamelech, maharu es Haman. Bring Haman quickly, lasos es devar Esther, to obey the words of Esther. And they went. Apparently the banquet was now, brunch. Vayavai hamelech v'Haman el hamishter asher asasa Esther. Okay. So now they're sitting at a banquet. There's wine, there's drink, there's food. So once again, the king asks Esther, what is it you really want? You didn't just come for a party, did you? Vayomer hamelech li'Esther b'mishtei hayayin. In the party, ma she'latech v'yinasim lach. What are you asking for? It'll be given to you. Uma bakashasech. What are you requesting? Ad chatzi hamalchus v'seyas. Up to half the kingdom, it will be done. Again, Rashi says, once again, he's merames. I won't give you what's in the middle of my kingdom, the building of the Beis HaMikdash. That you're not going to get. But up to that, you'll get. So here, one would expect, at least now, Esther should do her job. But she doesn't. Pasuk Zayin. Vatan Esther Vataimer Sheilasi Bakashasi. This is my request, and this is my what I'm seeking. If I find favor in the king's eyes, but if the king sees this as good, to give what I'm asking, and to grant what I'm requesting. Come tomorrow to the banquet. And tomorrow I will do what the king wants. Now, here is the thing. It seems, just reading the language, it seems that Esther was going to reveal herself right now. Because the language is too dramatic for a prosaic desire to invite them for a mishta. She says, my request, my bakasha, if I find favor in the king's eyes, if the king likes it, to grant my request. It's almost as if she was ready to say this. She was ready. And the last minute, she got cold feet, or actually min hashamayim. It was supposed to be the next day. Well, we'll see why in a moment. So I think the hemshech of the psukim is very, very clear, that she was about to spill the beans and then she pulled back. She has a pachad. She thinks it's not ready. And the Medrash actually says, machar, that when she says, tomorrow I will do what the king wants. So the Pashat Pshat is, tomorrow I will do what you want. You're asking me what I want. I'll tell you tomorrow. But the Medrash says that Melech also refers to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whose name is not explicitly mentioned in Megillas Esther. And the Medrash says the downfall of Amalek, and Haman is from Amalek, Haman ha'Agagi, Haman from Agag, who was the king of Amalek that Shaul didn't kill. And although Shmuel killed him, but in the meantime Agag impregnated a woman that was the ancestor of Haman. Amalek's nefila is always connected to machar, going back to the first time that Amalek attacked us. They were the very first nation that attacked us. When we left Mitzrayim, Hashem said to Moshe, command Yoshua to lead an army against Amalek umachar, and tomorrow they will be destroyed. Meaning it's always the next day. You have your first meeting, and Amalek is connected to machar. Umachar eseh. So the first banquet, not too much was accomplished. It simply involved an invitation to the second banquet. Now this is the first day of Pesach, 15th of Nisan. So, what is going through Haman's head right now? Esther is thinking that machar, I will reveal everything. But Haman doesn't know. Haman doesn't know Esther is Jewish. Achashverosh doesn't know Esther is Jewish. Vayetze Haman b'yamahu sameach v'toiv leiv. Haman left the king's palace in a very good mood, because he was the only guest at a private banquet between the king and the queen. The only one. V'chiros Haman es Mordechai b'shara melech. So Haman leaves the palace with a sense of how important he is, how chashuv he is. But he sees Mordechai. Now Mordechai, this is the third day of the fast, so Mordechai is sitting in sackcloth, but he's still following his procedure of not getting up and not bowing down. V'lo kam v'lo zam mimenu. Mordechai doesn't move. Vayimale Haman al Mordechai chema. So all of the joy that Haman had when he left the palace, now all of his anger and resentment comes back. But Vayisapek Haman, he holds himself in, because after all, he has, right now, based on his non-religious outlook, he's holding all the cards, as if to say, oh, okay, Mordechai, you can do what you want. But 11 months from now, all of you guys are going to be dead. So Haman held himself in. Vayavay el Beisai. Haman came home. Again, the first day of Pesach. Vayishlach vayavay es ohavav. He summoned all of his friends, his admirers. Haman had friends, buddies, along with Zeresh, his wife. And Haman began to boast about what an important person he is. Pasuk Yud Aleph. Vayisaper lehem Haman es kavod ashrei. Haman talked about his great wealth. Remember, he was phenomenally wealthy. He was willing to give Achashverosh 10,000 kikar, 10,000 talents of silver. A kikar is several hundred pounds. 10,000 times several hundred pounds. So he talked about his wealth. V'rov banav, and the many children he had. We know he had at least 10 children. V'yeis kol asher gidlei hamelech, and all of the greatness that the king had given him. V'yeis asher nisai al asarim, and the fact that he was lifted above all the other officers. V'yavdei hamelech, and all the other servants. He was the prime minister. In the beginning of the Megillah, he was one of 7. Now he's the top. And then he brings the most recent honor. Vayomer Haman, Af lo hivia Esther hamalkim hamelech ala mishta asher rasasa ki emaisi. And Esther Hamalka only brought one person to this private banquet. And that was me. So that's today. And tomorrow is going to be the same thing, because that's what Esther requested at the banquet. V'gam l'machar. And tomorrow as well. Little does he know that'll be his downfall, but tomorrow as well. Ani karula. I am summoned to be with the king. So yeah, a lot of things are going well. I have a lot of money. I have a lot of power. I am honored. I am appreciated. But then the old rivalry comes back. None of this is worth it to me. Every time I see Mordechai who doesn't get up and doesn't bow down and doesn't honor me no matter what, it sticks in my craw. Haman has a gezerah to kill all the Jews, but he still can't stand that Mordechai does not honor him. So now we have a proposal. Vatomer lo Zeresh Ishtay. Zeresh, who is his wife, V'chol Oavav, and all of his buddies, they say, hey, we have a good idea. The good idea is Yasu Eitz Kavaya Chamisha Mama. Yeah, you have a gezerah that in 11 months from now you're going to wipe out the Jews. That's great. But Mordechai right now is really bothering you. So let's get rid of Mordechai now. Make a tree that's 50 amos high. Now an amma could be as much as 2 feet, so it might be 100 feet high. A huge, not so much a tree, but a pole. Yasu eitz mean make a pole that's 50 amos high, so everybody will see it. Uba biker, and in the morning, and don't wake up the king, and Morla Melech, say to the king, Vayitlu Mordechai. In other words, listen, it's a kal v'chomer. If the king gave you reshus to destroy a nation, without even knowing who the nation is, he'll certainly give you reshus to hang Mordechai. So Mordechai will be hung tomorrow. This is the last day you're going to have to worry about him. And then hang Mordechai even before the banquet. Get it in before breakfast. Ubo im hamelech al hamishta sameach. And then you will come with the king to the party, happy. Vayitav hadavar l'fnei Haman. Haman thought that was a great idea. V'yasa'etz, he prepared a pole. He set up a gallows that's 50 amos high to hang Mordechai on the gallows the next morning.